Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters. Weeks ago, I done a review on the prequel, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, so if you haven't checked it out, please do so before watching this review. Till now, let's begin this review. The story opens up when Daffy Duck was running a business on his own called Jet Age Pest Control, where he exterminates rats and more. Granny called Daffy to take care of her pest problem. Finding one of the rats, Daffy was having trouble taking care of the pest, and thus he accidentally breaks Granny's time regulator and is thrown back in time with the time gem that runs the machine. Bugs Bunny entered the scene where he wakes up with one of the gears falling in his rabbit hole, and all hell breaks loose when there are people from different time era in modern time. Granny sent Taz to find help and thus caught Bugs Bunny and brought him to Granny. Granny thus convinced Bugs to help her and team up with Taz to get back the time gem from Daffy and collect gears from the time regulator that are scattered throughout time in order to advance to another time era, and thus Bugs Bunny begins a new adventure in a video game. Let me first start saying that the gameplay is greatly improved from its predecessor. Here in Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters, you can play both Bugs Bunny and Taz as they both have their own abilities and they have their own pros and cons useful for various situations and challenges. Bugs Bunny still has the same abilities from Time Busters where you can kick, jump, hover in midair, roll over in small places, dive in rabbit holes, pick up objects, throw objects, tiptoeing for sneaking and stealth, climb on poles and trees, and now, new to the series, he can swim underwater. Taz has very different abilities like his signature spin, not only attacking enemies, but to activate puzzles and create holes for Bugs to dive in. And he also can carry heavier objects than Bugs himself, but can't jump as high as Bugs, and more, which is the reason why Bugs and Taz's abilities are huge pros and cons. The gameplay on both of those characters improves as you continue your adventure and meet up with Tweety, indicating where Granny would be to give you new moves, such as Bugs bouncing on Taz's head, Taz's scary face, Taz carrying Bugs Bunny and throw him, super roll, super spin, and so much more. With having two characters to play in Time Busters, at any given time you can switch to Bugs and Taz whenever you want, and you can summon any of those characters that you are not controlling right in the same location, which really fixed the frustration of having two different characters to get to the same location in faraway distances. This is a huge plus without a doubt, and it's a shame that this is probably one of the few games that I played that has two playable characters for a single player to be able to switch them and bring them right back to the same location to another character. If games today would still let the single player to play two different characters and switch them at any given time, it would have been epic. But sadly, I haven't seen this feature since Oddworld Munch's Odyssey. Speaking of which, Time Busters offers a two-player co-op where one player plays Bugs and the other plays Taz. This way, it creates less frustration of having to constantly switch characters, but also creates a new problem where there's no split screen, and thus two players must share one camera. This does create a problem when you're in a faraway distance, but if player 1 gets far away from player 2, then the camera focuses on player 1, and in any given time, player 2 can automatically appear right in the same location with player 1. This co-op is a very fantastic feature, minus the fact that the other player can hurt you. This is one of my favorite co-op games ever. Back in the day, my brother and I constantly played this game together, getting everything we need to collect. On to the collecting. Your object of the game is to collect gears, and each of them has a specific number indicating how much a gear is worth. There are some gears that are worth 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, and etc., where if you collect one of these babies, they add the numbers up in the gears you collect. You can find gears scattered everywhere, and big ones in minigames and challenges, and there are a ton of them, which adds the fun factor for the game. Another important item to collect is boss medallions, which is scattered in bigger challenges. Once collecting one of them, the medallion will automatically put itself to the door to the boss where you have to face, and there is a specific number of medallions to reach in order to open the boss door. By the way, each level and time area you play is incredibly non-linear, with so many areas to go and decisions to make for the challenges to take. Each level has a huge number of gears, and there are over hundreds and thousands of them to collect, that collecting all of them will take a lot of time. Also still as a collectible are Acme boxes from Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, where you have to break a certain number of them to obtain a prize number of gears. One more thing to collect is characters lost in time. These guys are from different time eras in which they don't belong, and your job is to hit them, which will send them back to their own time era. At first, they were easy to find and attack, but later they become more challenging as they rely on getting new moves in order to reach them. There are a certain number of characters lost in time, and if you attack all of them in one level, you'll obtain a 100 gear hanging in the air in a certain location. The reason why facing the struggle of collecting gears is important is because it's the only thing that advances you to the next level. Once you defeat the boss of the level, entering the next level requires you a lot of gears. But let me get to the best part. On my Bugs Bunny Lost in Time review, there's a lot of people who are complaining about the graphics of the game being horrible. Well, here in Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters, the graphics did improve, but it's not a big deal for me because I focus on gameplay, which is the reason why I even play video games. Speaking of gameplay, this game consists of having a lot of mini games that will keep you occupied if you were to collect everything. I especially love riding the dragon minigame, playing hockey with the Vikings, and some of the most atmospheric levels like the Moon Valley and the Viking level that really gives me a warm feeling, just like in Bugs Bunny Lost in Time's Magic Hair Blower level. I also like to address that the boss fights in this game is much more epic than any other Looney Tunes game, as they feel incredibly challenging. And it's even better if you have a boss fight with a co-op, because it does get irritating when you constantly have to switch characters during a boss battle, as both Bugs and Taz has different abilities, using them to activate switches which they are able to control in order to make the boss become vulnerable. The best boss fights were Yosemite Sam in the Golden Temple, Elmer Fudd in the Viking Castle, referencing to the most famous What's Opera Doc, and most of all Count Blood Count. That was one heck of a final boss to face. And finally, an ending that's worth a damn. But with all the praise, why did Bugs Bunny Lost in Time made it to my top 20 3D platformers and Time Busters didn't? Well, it was a one game per series list, and to be quite honest, there were many things that Time Busters did better than Lost in Time, and at times felt worse. I do praise the open world non-linear Banjo-Kazooie style gameplay, but to be honest, there aren't that many levels in this game. There are only 4 different levels in different time zones: the Aztec, headed by Yosemite Sam, the Viking era, headed by Elmer Fudd, Arabian Nights, headed by Bubba Chop, and Transylvania, headed by Count Blood Counts. And they all consist on us putting so many hours on collecting gears and boss medallions. It's funny that this is supposed to be a time-traveling adventure, but where Lost in Time succeeds in having a time machine and going to different time eras feels like you're traveling through time. In Time Busters, there is no time machine. There are levels that are too close to Granny's house, which makes me wonder, why can't she just walk there and get back the time gem herself? Are the levels really portals, or are they there because the developers are too lazy to put up a time machine? You can argue that Daffy made the locations from different time eras to enter modern times, but it's funny because in the beginning, as Daffy was entering Granny's house, you can already see the entrance to the Aztec era. Now where's the logic in that? So in other words, we're not time traveling, we're just chasing Daffy, who is teleported to the other side of Greenwich with a bunch of guys who are outdated with modern society right next to Granny's house. In other words, it shouldn't be called Bugs and Taz Time Busters, it should be called Bugs and Taz Chasing Daffy in Granny's prehistoric neighborhood. There are a lot of side quests and mini games that I dislike in this game, like facing those baboons in the baboon realm in the Aztec level was really annoying and frustrating, and the Arabian level, there was rarely anything that appealed to me, and whenever I'm in that level, I really wanted to finish it as fast as possible. The one thing that Bugs Bunny Lost in Time really did succeed over Time Busters is the level design, because in Time Busters, you can tell there are some references, but you can't tell which episode it's based on. In Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, the level fully replicates each great episode of Bugs Bunny and telling you what episode each level it's based on. But here, it doesn't even have the same atmosphere as Looney Tunes. And that's the reason why I like Bugs Bunny Lost in Time more than Bugs and Taz Time Busters, because it actually feels like you're playing an episode of Looney Tunes, rather than just getting the license of Looney Tunes and put it in a video game, which is the main problem with a lot of Looney Tunes games. I'm not saying that Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters is a bad game by any means. It's just that I've been asked so many times, why do I prefer Bugs Bunny Lost in Time over Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters? So I gave you my reason why. But on the bright side, I definitely would pick up Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters over Donkey Kong 64's complex collecting any day. This game is, in my opinion, the second greatest Looney Tunes game ever, especially with the co-op feature that we don't see as much in video games. If you invite me over to play games, and if you have Bugs and Taz Time Busters, then I would spend the whole day playing the co-op, because it's a fantastic feature to play with anyone, minus some areas that was only made for one character. Bugs and Taz Time Busters does does an excellent job of capturing the humor and personality that the Looney Tunes franchise embodies. Fans of Lost in Time will have a wonderful time with the sequel, and if you couldn't enjoy Bugs Bunny Lost in Time because of your disgust with the graphics, well, give this a try. Time Busters is an enjoyable platform game, and it's definitely something that Looney Tunes fans should pick up. I give this game a 5 fingers out of 5. So that's my review on Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters. If you like this review, give a thumbs up, post a comment, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.